Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about potassium. Potassium is the major intracellular cation. Major intracellular cation. It is widely distributed in the body fluids and tissues. That is in whole blood. In whole blood it is 200 mg per dl. In plasma, it is about 20 mg per dl. Then in cells, it is about 440 mg per 100 gram. Then in muscle tissue, it is about 250 to 400 mg. 250 to 400 mg per 100 gram. Then in nerve tissue, it is about 530 mg per 100 gram. So, potassium, it is the major intracellular cation. It is widely distributed in the body fluids and in tissues. It is widely distributed in the vegetable foods. Widely distributed in vegetable foods. Coming to the metabolism of this potassium. An average amount of 4 gram of potassium is present in the diet. Average amount of 4 gram of potassium is present in the diet. It is easily absorbed. As soon as it is absorbed, potassium enters the cells. It is excreted in the urine. When there is an excessive intake of sodium, amount of potassium excretion increases. Excessive intake of, when there is excessive intake of sodium, that time amount of potassium excretion increases. Potassium excretion increases. Average human body contains about 3.6 moles of this potassium. Its normal concentration of plasma potassium is 3.5 to 5 milliequivalents per liter. This is the normal value of normal concentration of plasma potassium, that is 3.5 to 5 milliequivalents per liter. This is maintained by sodium potassium ATPase or this sodium pump. The concentration of intracellular potassium is 150 milliequivalents per liter. 150 milliequivalents per liter. Concentration of intracellular potassium. This is roughly equivalent to the concentration of sodium outside the cell. This is equivalent to concentration of sodium outside the cell. This potassium is also excreted in GI tract, saliva, gastric juice, bile, pancreatic juice and intestinal juice. Potassium is continuously filtered by the glomeruli. It is filtered by the glomeruli and reabsorbed by the cells of proximal convoluted tubules. Reabsorbed by cells of this proximal convoluted tubules. Potassium ions are also secreted in distal tubule in exchange of sodium. These are secreted in distal tubule in exchange of sodium. That is the metabolism of potassium. Coming to the functions of potassium. Many functions of potassium and sodium are carried out in coordination with each other. These functions of potassium and sodium are carried out in coordination with each other. Functions include, it influences the muscular activity. It influences muscular activity. Then it is involved in acid-base balance. In acid-base balance. Then it has an important role in cardiac function. In cardiac function, then certain enzymes also require this potassium as cofactor. For example, pyruvate kinase. Then it is involved in neuromuscular irritability and nerve conduction process. So these are the main functions of potassium. Coming to the clinical aspects, two clinical conditions are there: hyperkalemia and hypokalemia. So first we will see hyperkalemia. It is high serum concentration of potassium. In clinical practice, this hyperkalemia is due to many reasons. That is, kidney failure with the decreased excretion of potassium. Kidney failure with decreased excretion of potassium. Decrease the potassium excretion. Then a sudden release of potassium from the intracellular compartment, which is happening in a variety of diseases. Sudden release of potassium from the intracellular compartment. Sudden release from intracellular compartment. These are due to a variety of diseases. Then anuria. Complete shutdown of kidney function results in increasing concentration of this potassium. Complete shutdown of this kidney function. It leads to increase the concentration of potassium. Then the rise may be rapid if the kidney failure is associated with sudden release of intracellular potassium from any organ. So the rise may be rapid. The next condition is tissue damage. Tissue damage. Damage to body cells results in release of cell contents including potassium into the extracellular fluid. So damage to body cells results in release of cell contents including this potassium into the extracellular fluid. For example, crush injuries. Crush injuries with damages to large volumes of muscle tissue, and in the case of massive hemolysis also. Massive hemolysis. This all causes hyperkalemia. In both crush injuries and mass hemolysis, there is reduced kidney function and also hyperkalemia. In these cases, there is reduced kidney function and it causes hyperkalemia. The next one is violent muscle contraction. Violent muscle contraction. This vigorous exercise produces a release of potassium from muscle cells into the extracellular space. Vigorous exercise produces release of potassium from the muscle cells into extracellular space. This causes a temporary elevation in plasma potassium. This causes temporary elevation in plasma potassium. That is in violent muscle contraction. Next one is in Addison's disease. Addison's disease. This Addison's disease is characterized by low serum sodium and high serum potassium. Addison's disease, it is characterized by low serum sodium and high serum potassium. In the absence of aldosterone, the exchange of sodium for potassium in the kidneys is reduced. In the absence of this aldosterone, exchange of sodium for potassium in the kidneys is reduced with the increased loss of sodium and retention of this potassium. Here, increased loss of sodium. So, decreased serum sodium, and there will be retention of this potassium. So increase the serum potassium in Addison's disease. Next one is diabetes mellitus. In ketoacidosis, there is loss of intracellular potassium to the extracellular fluid. In ketoacidosis, the potassium is lost from intracellular space to extracellular fluid. This is partly due to increase the activity of sodium potassium pump, which results from impaired glucose metabolism. If ketoacidosis presents for a long time, there will be major repletion of total body potassium. That is in diabetes mellitus. Then this treatment with insulin allows resumption of sodium pump activity. Here in the diabetes mellitus, treatment with insulin, it allows the resumption of sodium pump activity and movement of potassium back into the cells from the extracellular fluid, movement to the cells. This in turn causes a fall in plasma concentration of this potassium. So treatment with insulin that allows resumption of sodium pump activity and movement of this potassium back to cells. This causes a fall in plasma potassium. This is treated by administration of potassium to restore this which has been lost in the urine during the period of acidosis. So that is about hyperkalemia. Next clinical condition is hypokalemia. Hypokalemia. It is low serum potassium. Low serum potassium. It usually results from the depletion of total body potassium. Usually results from the depletion of total body potassium. So let's see the causes of this hypokalemia. First one is loss of potassium in GI secretions. Loss in GI secretions. This here the prolonged vomiting and severe diarrhea. Prolonged vomiting and severe diarrhea causes depletion of total body potassium and it causes hypokalemia. Severe vomiting and diarrhea. This all causes hypokalemia. Then laxative users. Laxative users develop a state of chronic mild diarrhea which causes low potassium levels. That is for laxative users. Then there is a mucus secreting tumor called Silus adenoma. Silus adenoma. This is a mucus secreting tumor. Mucus secreting tumor, that is Silus adenoma. This secretes large amounts of potassium into the lumen of colon. This secretes large amount of potassium into the lumen of this colon. So this also causes hypokalemia. That is the first cause, that is loss in GI secretions. Next one is loss of potassium in urine. Loss in urine. Some diuretics cause loss of potassium. For example, thiazides and acetazolamide. Thiazides and acetazolamide. These diuretics cause loss of potassium. In clinical practice, the use of thiazide diuretics is one of the most common causes of low plasma potassium. It can be corrected by potassium intake. Then Cohn's tumor. Cohn's tumor which develops in the adrenal gland. This also produces excess amounts of aldosterone. This Cohn's tumor which is developed in the adrenal gland produces excess amounts of aldosterone. The resulting primary hyperaldosteronism is characterized by increased loss of potassium in urine. Then in Cushing syndrome, next one is Cushing syndrome, that is adrenocortical hyperfunction. Here also hypokalemia is seen. It is particularly severe if the process is due to production of ACTH by an ectopic tumor. That is in the case of Cushing syndrome. Next one is loss of extracellular potassium into the intracellular space. Loss of extracellular potassium into intracellular space. This treatment of diabetic ketoacidosis causes a rapid fall in plasma potassium from hyperkalemia to normal and then to hypokalemia. Treatment of diabetic ketoacidosis causes a rapid fall in the plasma potassium from hyperkalemia to normal and then to hypokalemia as the acidosis is brought under control. Then other causes of this hypokalemia, other causes include, there is an inherited disorder called familial periodic paralysis. Familial periodic paralysis. This is an inherited disorder. Here there is sudden shift of this potassium into the intracellular fluid. Sudden shift of potassium into intracellular fluid and it causes paralysis. Similar case in the case of this thyrotoxic periodic paralysis. Thyrotoxic periodic paralysis, same also. There is an inherited disorder called familial periodic paralysis. Here there is a sudden shift of potassium into the ICF, that is in intracellular fluid, and it causes paralysis. Then next cause is renal tubular acidosis. Renal tubular acidosis. This low serum concentration of potassium, it is seen in renal tubular acidosis in Barter's syndrome. Barter's syndrome. So, low serum potassium is seen in renal tubular acidosis in Barter's syndrome and after administration of steroids such as deoxycorticosterone and testosterone and cortisone. So, these are about the clinical aspects of potassium. So, this is all about potassium. This is today's topic. Thank you for watching.